Everwood and Smallville. I'm only a staff writer, which means I don't earn a huge amount of money, and I'm definitely, like a lot of people have been saying, this is about like the middle class members of the guild. I'm not one of those millionaire showrunners, you know, so I don't have a job. My husband stays at home, and I have a little boy.
I made an independent feature that went to Sundance called Could Be Worse, and it's a musical comedy starring my real family. It's on DVD, and that's what got me into the guild. I have a landscape design business that just ekes me by. I have a really nice aunt and uncle who pay me $10 an hour to polish their car or sort their papers, and that gives me a little bit of cash. I don't have a car right now, so they let me borrow their car, or I get a ride. I don't know how I'm getting home today.
I was very lucky. Right after college, I got picked up by ICM. I set up my first project with Dustin Hoffman to be in. Right after that, I wrote a script called Troy, which got sold to Warner Brothers. What wound up happening is they brought in a guy to rewrite me, and the movie you saw called Troy is nothing like the thing that I wrote. And of course, I didn't get any credit.
I'm a writer's assistant on Lost. I'm in the room with all of the writers while they're discussing each episode, and it's my first job in television. It's kind of heartbreaking to all of a sudden, you know, have that gone.
My first feature film that I wrote and that I had produced was called Whacked, starring Carmen Electra and Judge Reinhold. Most of the people who were outside of the film business asked me, well, what kind of house are you going to buy, or are you going to go out and buy a fancy car? My answer to them was, first of all, it isn't that much money. It is less than the average person makes in a year in America. It took me 6 months to get the movie written and sold. So if you really add it up, it's not a terribly lucrative business.
Out of the 32 screenplays I've written, about 7 of them have been picked up, bought, and paid for. The misconception is that once you break into Hollywood, you're in. That's not the case. Once you break into Hollywood, you have to keep breaking in and keep bringing the goods. That's Caitlin and Elijah, and that's baby Natalie in the tummy. They're all touching. When the work dried up, it felt like it was all of a sudden, and it felt like it was complete silence. I had no money coming in all of a sudden. I had no way to make rent. I went out and tried to find jobs in all different fields, but I didn't have the training to get a job that would support a family with 3 kids, which is what I had on my hands. Which one do you want, Natalie?
I want the one Candace.
Okay, you got it. So I sent my family to the one place where they were safe, which is at my wife's parents' house, and we got separated by over 2,000 miles. So I wound up having to write entire scripts for $2,000 here, or another one for $15,000 there, where they wanted 3 drafts, and that's enough to actually pay to keep your kids in school, just enough, and scrape by and put food on my plate. But I couldn't afford rent. I couldn't put a roof over my own head.
For me personally, the biggest issue is jurisdiction and control over the internet, because in 5 years, if we don't have jurisdiction over the internet, they're going to call television the internet. And then they're going to be able to not pay us anything for the work that we do.
In 1960, a similar change was underway in terms of the way the business was starting to function. The studios were saying the same thing, which is they were losing money and they hadn't figured out how to make money. And then as a result of a 5.5-month strike, everything that I have as a writer, my pension, my health benefits, my residuals, my minimums, was given to me by those people who didn't work for 6 months in 1960, and I feel like I owe the same, fortitude towards the next generation of writers.
Come on, put those fingers on those laces. Let's see it now. I want some spiral. All right. I basically realized that unless I joined the Writers Guild, I was never going to be able to make a living as a writer, because they'd always pay you less. They would always rather not pay for your health and pension funds. They'd always rather get the work that you can do for nothing if they can get it, or as close to that as possible. So finally, I got another screenwriting job, and they, of course, offered me next to nothing. And I went back to the table and I said, no, if we're going to do this, you're going to pay for me to join the Writers Guild, and you're going to pay my health and pension, because I have 3 children. So I made sure I had the check, and the check had cleared before I called her and said it was time to come home to California, and it was time to start having our lives together again.
most people who are unemployed, don't get residuals. So, pick another career. But the reality is this is the career that I've chosen and that other writers have chosen. We have to come up with ideas that entertain people. That is an enormously tricky skill set. And the median age of a successful writer is somewhere like in their mid to late 30s. There are not a lot of writers who are able to make a living as a writer in their mid 40s and beyond, because the studios all want to hire, younger voices, and therefore you reach your mandatory retirement age the same way that a baseball player does, and we're only compensated 1/100th of what a baseball player is. So the residuals are the only thing that we have to fall back upon.
We're the guys behind the scenes, the guys who you forget write the words like, "You can't handle the truth," and "Play it again, Sam." And all those lines that you repeat yourself over and over again from all your favorite movies, those were written by somebody. And we're standing on that line for the actors and the directors and all the other artists that come after us in this negotiation process. And if we give up or we don't stand strong, then we weaken everybody. And we know that. And that's why we have to stand on that line.